Howdy everyone, I'm Joshua Schultz.
Tyler Waldrop, Stealth Art.
We're here at Treadwell Coffee, and make sure you tune in to Good Morning Aurora.
Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 6:55 a.m. I'm a little bit late doing this. You're listening to Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city first daily news podcast. Got a great interview and episode coming up for you today. And as a matter of fact, with that being said, I have to get this news out of here quick because I got to go to Treadwell, pick up my coffee. And not only that, I also have to make sure that you guys get the news before we go live. All right, so let's get into it. First things first, don't forget Thursday, June 3rd, 5 to 8 p.m., there's the Resource Fair hosted by Chapel Street Church. 1 South 455 Mill Creek Drive in Geneva, free dinner, free haircuts, and free cleaning supplies. Northwestern Medicine is going to be there. Two Rivers Head Start, Fox Valley Food for Health, Mutual Ground, and the Northern Illinois Food Bank are just some of the organizations taking part. Job search assistance, health screening, and much, much more. Shouts out to Chapel Street Church. Remember, June 3rd, that's a Thursday, 5 to 8 p.m. Also, don't forget tomorrow. Oh my God, my neck, my throat. Tomorrow, the 19th, 5 p.m., Amita Health. They are hosting the informational session in Spanish, the Virtual Diabetes Prevention Program. Risk factors for type 2 diabetes include impaired glucose or impaired glucose tolerance, a family history of diabetes, smoking tobacco regularly, and more things. Zoom link will be provided at the time of registration. For more information, or to register, call 630-897-4000. That number again is 630-897-4000. Last but not least, there is the planting party. 1 to 3 p.m. Join the Aurora Downtown Streetscape Committee for planting in Lot A across River Street behind Hollywood Casino. Then head over to Gillerson's Grubbery for happy hour on Penny Street. Bring a towel, mask, gloves, and a water bottle. Shouts out to the Aurora Downtown group. And don't forget, United We Stride. That's taking place May 29th. Jesse the Law Boxing Club's Memorial Day 5K. Go virtual and run it your own way or join the team at Wabanzi Park at 8 a.m. Registration $25 is the early bird special of $20 and includes a race day medal. Register online at jessethelawboxingclub.com. All right, that's it for the news. I'm going to get ready. Enjoy this awesome interview. And that is the news. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You are the first person I've interviewed in the afternoon in a while. It's been a while. Yeah. It's typically been in the morning times.
I'm glad to be the first.
Awesome. So for our listeners, let us know who you are and where you're from.
I am Lucy Girolamo. I am an ESL teacher and an author. I live in Sugar Grove, but I was born in Cuba. I migrated here with my family when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
We lived, I grew up in Northlake, a western suburb.
Right.
And lived out there for many years, went to school. And my husband and I moved out to Sugar Grove to raise our family.
Okay. What's Northlake like?
It's a small little town. Well, it's kind of like Aurora. Not as many businesses, but it's a cute little town. We lived in the unincorporated part, so it was nice.
Oh, okay.
You know, go for walks with my little puppy and.
I've heard nice things about Northlake, but I have not yet been there. What's around it? What are the cities around it?
It's right next to Elmhurst.
Okay.
Rose Park.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a cute little town.
So, you came from Cuba at age 8.
Yep.
What is your earliest memory of, I guess, America?
America. I remember going into New York and being in like the immigration office.
Okay.
I just remember standing there with my parents and my sisters. And then we actually spent a year in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
That's where my sisters and I received our bilingual education. So I remember Florida very well.
Oh, all right. So came as a Spanish speaker
Yes.
and then learning. What was it like to learn English?
It was difficult. It's English is not an easy language. It's beautiful, but it's not easy.
Kind of like life again, right? Sometimes?
Yes. Yeah, reading and writing was a struggle, and I struggled with it for many years. It wasn't until I got into, and I tell my students this all the time, when I got into college is when I finally, figured out writing.
Ah, interesting.
Yes, yes. But yeah, it was difficult, but here I am.
And one thing that I am somewhat familiar with, and I'd like your perspective on it. There is a difference between Cuban Spanish or dialect and other
Yes.
Latin. Is that true?
Yes,
Okay.
there are different dialects. Puerto Rican, Mexican, South America.
Right.
There are the Cuban Spanish is very similar to the Spanish from Spain. That dialect. But it's still different. I love the way the Spaniards speak. When we left Cuba, we had to go through another country to get our immigration papers to come in here legally. So we went through Spain because we have family in Spain.
Okay.
So we were in Spain, I believe it was three or 4 months. I always ask my mom and I always forget. But I love listening to them speak. Their Spanish is just so beautiful.
Portuguese.
So no, it's not. That is Portugal. But it's different. Portuguese is different.
Okay.
A different language.
Right.
I've heard Portuguese and I can make out a few words, but it is different.
This is one of the interesting things about doing this and interviewing people, because the things that I have been mildly familiar with, I do like to get that clarification when I can. So that's pretty interesting to know that. Growing up, what impact did your dad have on your life?
My dad was my hero. He is my hero. He fought, he struggled, he suffered a lot in Cuba with everything that happened. But his strength to stand up and speak up, that type of advocacy, so to speak, right? That was something that was instilled in me, and advocacy is a big deal for me. It's huge. I have advocated for my children on many occasions for many things. I advocate for my family for many things, and now on a daily basis I do it for my students. So he was a big part of who I am.
Right. Now, did you come with your entire family,
Yes.
or was your dad here? Okay.
No. Yes, it was my mom, dad, and my 2 sisters.
Okay.
I'm the oldest. Yes.
What year was this?
79.
1979. What was, for those who don't know, what was the situation in Cuba like in 1979? Some will be familiar with what America was like in 1979, but what was the situation for those who don't know in Cuba?
It was very difficult. Everything was it's still like that actually. Rations. Everything is in rations. It was hard to find food. You would have to go to when it was when you run out of something, you have to go and stand in these extremely long lines. You have to get there early, hoping you get to the front of the line, right? But there's others that think the same way. So you wait in these ridiculously long lines to get into the store and hope you get what you need. And if they don't have it, you have to come back another day, wait in that long line. I tell my students, you don't have the luxuries and the things that you have here. You can just go to Jewel, Woodman's, whatever, and get whatever you want. You can't do that in Cuba.
Myers open 24 hours. So.
You can't do that. You can't do that. Clothing. I mean, you were only allowed so many garments a year. I think 3 garments a year. Shoes, 1 pair of shoe a year. Work was, it was hard to. My parents are both very well educated. They have degrees, but because of what happened to my father, his eyesight was damaged, and he was not able to. He had an engineering degree. He was not able to do that because his eyesight was bad. My mom had an accounting degree, and she couldn't find work in accounting. So you can't have the career you want.
Gotcha.
At school, every child in school has to wear a uniform. That's it's the government schooling. When you're in middle school, by the time kids get to middle school, they have to then go to camps to work. They're shipped off to camps to work. And if you want to, go to the university and earn a degree in whatever you want, you have to be indoctrinated into the communist agenda in order to be part of a group, and then you're allowed to, learn whatever you want.
Sure.
And we don't have that here.
Right.
That's not a problem here, right? We can go to college and study whatever you want.
Right.
You can go to public school and not have to wear a uniform. So many other things, but those were the things that I remember. I remember having to wear a uniform every day, not always having food, toilet paper.
Right.
I tell this to my students, they crack up every time. Well, they don't crack up, but they get it when I give them this example. But you don't have enough toilet paper, you run out. You have to find other means,
Right.
to clean yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we saved our newspapers. So it was difficult. It was hard. It was a struggle. And my parents, knowing what the future was going to be for us, they didn't want us growing up in that. They wanted their daughters to have a future.
Right.
Have a career, have a better life, and that's where I began.
Now, what part of Cuba are you from?
The 8 years that I was there, I lived in Santiago de Cuba, which is the southern coast.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think, if I remember, my mom said it's about an hour from the beach, from the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are here now in America.
Yes.
You get here, you're 8 years old.
Yes.
Tell us about school. Going to school, English was hard, you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But what was school like, and what school did you go to?
I went to Proviso West High School.
Oh, Berlin?
Hillside.
Hillside, yeah,
Yes,
Proviso.
yes.
I think Proviso East is in Berlin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So yes, I went to Proviso West. Made great friends there. It was a struggle, like I said, because of the language. The language was a big impact on that. But I got through.
Right.
I got decent grades. I joined the Spanish club because that would be
Why
a
not?
way to keep up with my culture and
Right.
yeah, exactly. And then I graduated high school and I got my bachelor's at DeVry in computer science.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you. And then I had my children, and a good friend of mine, Lisa Malator, convinced me to go back to school with her and receive my master's in teaching. And that's, how I became a teacher.
And what year was that?
That is a question, an answer I should know, and I can't remember. No, I'm sorry. So I started working as a teacher in 2008, but I had not graduated yet. At the time, the counselor at my actually it was Aurora University where I went.
AU.
Yes.
Oh, how about that?
Yes, and the counselor suggested that I start working. At the time, and it's still a struggle. It's still an issue actually. They needed bilingual teachers.
Right.
And I was not aware of that. I was completely ignorant to the fact that could be an issue. I mean, I received bilingual education as a child, but I never realized that there was still such a need for that,
Right.
and still a big deal. So, she said I could get a certificate which would allow me to start working, and I would be my own student teacher. And
Cool.
it was cool, but the way she did say to me, she said it would be sink or swim, which kind of scared me. But I said, okay, let's give it a shot. So I did, and I started teaching before I got my degree. So I believe I got my degree in 2009, and I survived it.
Good.
Here I am. Yeah.
What do you like most about being a teacher?
Oh my gosh, the kids, they're so sweet, so innocent, and it's so rewarding, honestly. And it might sound like a cliche, but it really is. When I'm teaching them something and you see that light bulb, you see that little smile on their face, I'm gonna start crying. It's just so fulfilling, you know, that they get it. You reach them, you help them, you know. It's that's what I like most about it.
When you are teaching, have you encountered students who have struggled more than others?
Oh, yeah, all the time. There are, you know, kiddos that do much better. Some have, you know, learning disabilities on top of their, you know, language barrier. Others, you know, they just don't have, they don't hear that fluent English at home, which also, you know, can cause, you know, a difficulty in you know, being proficient in the language and, you know, succeeding.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I asked,
I feel for them.
yeah, well, and I asked that specifically because I've interviewed maybe 2 other teachers in the entire year I've been interviewing people. Your story is different than theirs, so I'm interested in how you are able to identify that, and I'm certain you are. That's why I was asking that.
Yeah.
Because I would think that you would have a really good ability to kind of pick that up.
You need to collect data, you know, samples, writing samples, reading samples, and then you need to know the student. You need to know their background. You know what kind of education they received. Did they come here, you know, from another country? Because if they didn't get a complete education from the previous country, then that could be a problem.
Right.
You know, there's going to be gaps there. You know, did they receive bilingual services? Because that's also a big impact. If they receive bilingual services since they were younger, they are going to be much more successful. And I know that people the old way of thinking was, you know, immerse them in English.
Right, they'll pick it up.
Right.
Push them in the pool, they'll start swimming.
Yeah, and it's not. It's those that are proficient in their native language will be much more successful.
On a whole, in your personal opinion, as an educator, how is the state of ESL in America currently?
It needs work.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's come a long way. You know, it has improved, but it still needs work. We need to find better ways to evaluate the kiddos, assess them. We need, even though I say a better way to assess them, we still need to do less assessing because we test these kids way too much, and I don't have enough time to teach them because I feel like I'm constantly testing them for something. If it's not a state one, it's a school mandated one. It's something, you know, and there's just not enough time to teach them what I need to teach them so they'll be successful in those tests, you know.
Right.
So it still needs work, and yeah.
When did you pick up writing? Were you always a writer?
No. Like I said earlier, when I got to college, I took a course at COD, a writing course, and he was, I wish I should know his name, but I can't remember it, but he was a really good professor. And we had to write a paper. I don't remember what the topic was, but I picked my dad and the story about my dad. You know, it's just, you know, a few pages. It wasn't a very long story, but he read it and you know, he said that was a really good paper. That was a really good story. You should write a book about it. I'm like, yeah, right.
Right.
I just figured out how to write. I'm not going to, you know, throw myself into a book. So, you know, you know, so I left school, you know, great, thank you, you know, I appreciate the compliment, but then, you know, when my kids were a little old, they were still young, and, you know, we would be with my parents, and they would hear our conversations about my dad and his struggles and what happened to him, and they had so many questions. You know, what happened to Grandpa? Why Abuelo? What happened to Abuelo? Why did they do that to him? You know.
That's
Abuelo's
grandpa in Spanish,
yes,
right?
yes. And I would, you know, so many questions, and I would answer them. But then I realized, you know, I should write this down.
Right.
This is a story that my children should know. and they should have something that they can, read as they get older and understand and appreciate, everything their father or grandfather did.
Right.
So that's when I started writing.
And when you started, how did that feel?
It felt weird because I had just started teaching, so I was teaching my students, I teach them about reading, how to improve their reading and writing skills, right? So it was weird to actually start doing it, but I started just interviewing my dad, just taking notes, just writing notes, and then eventually I turned it into an outline, and then I, made it into like a memoir format, and then it just morphed into something else from there on.
And that is the book that we have in front of us here, and it's called
To the Pastures.
To the Pastures. Interesting. Zoom in on that. How did you come up with the name To the Pastures?
To the Pastures. My dad always talked about when he was younger in Cuba, my grandfather owned lots of property. He owned fincas, farms, plantations. And my dad and my uncle would always go to these plantations to walk the mules, and on the way, or they would use the mules to carry their crops and so forth. And at the end of the day, they would walk to the They would walk the mules to the pastures, and that was my dad. He would tell me how that was his favorite time of the day. Where he would just, him and my uncle would walk the mules, and they would just talk and plan their future. And so that's why.
Interesting. And how long did it take you to write that book?
It took me 10 years.
Really?
My students always, their mouths drop when I tell them that. They're like, "What? Why did you do it for 10 years?" But yeah, it was a long process. Like I said, I started interviewing my dad. Lots of notes, lots of writing, lots of additions, revisions, so many different copies. And then my dad passed away, and I had to put it down. I couldn't get back to it. It was too painful. But then years passed, and all this. Obama opened, lifted the ban on travel to Cuba.
Right.
So
2010?
9/11,
Something like
between
that.
9 and 11, yeah, it was like slowly, yeah. And people started flocking, right, to the, tourism just, it boomed to Cuba, and you see, I read articles, oh, we have to go there, it's beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Social media, people would post, we have to go, you people have to go. The Cubans need our money so they can improve their country and get better, and things will get better. And I would get so upset when I would read those, because people just didn't realize that's not happening. The money that the tourism brought into Cuba, my people don't see it. They never did, they still haven't. None of it. Actually, things got worse. The repression got worse. Things just got worse for the Cuban people. And at that point, I realized, I'm like, I need to finish it. I need to finish it to educate everybody of what happened and continues to happen there. So that's when I opened it up, started again, and it was at that point it was kind of a cathartic process. So it was good, and it was probably my dad saying, "Hey, let's go."
Yeah. Get it done, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, do it, yeah.
Now, had you gone back to Cuba at any given time since leaving?
No, I can't. I will not.
Do you have family there?
I do have family there,
Okay.
and it's so sad. I really feel for them, because I have gotten pleads, desperate pleads for help. It's just, it's just really bad there. But we, because of what happened, it's dangerous for my family and I to go back.
Okay.
So, and not to mention that until it's a free country, I can't do that to my parents, and I will not.
So, if I'm not mistaken, To the Pastures is a memoir of your father, but also a Cuban or the Cuban story told through his eyes. Is that a fair assessment?
It is every event in the book is true. Yeah, everything happened to him, and all the events in the story are. I wrote it as a third person, so I could capture the feelings, you know, and the thoughts of other characters, not just my dad. So it's kind of a novel format, but it is, all the events are true. It's all right. Yeah, it's what happened to my dad and other Cubans that, you know, are discussed in the book.
So when you finished the book, how'd you feel?
Oh my gosh, it was great. It's very rewarding. I know I cried. I remember there was one day when my husband and children were out and they came home, and I was just wrapping it up, and my daughter saw me. I think it was my daughter. She saw me crying. She's like, "What's wrong?" And you know, I just said, "It's Abuelo's book," and yeah, so it's very rewarding.
Before I get to my next question, I do want to ask, what is it, in your personal opinion, what is it that the average American does not understand about Cuba?
They don't understand what, you know, socialism is the doorway to communism. And they're actually the same. There's all this talk nowadays about socialism in America. We got to become a socialist country, right? I hear socialism thrown all over the place, and Americans need to realize that you know, if we let socialism take over, it's what happened in Cuba. That's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this equality. With wealth and, you know, businesses and work. That's how it started. That's what Castro did. You know, he made everything equal, and you know, that's where where it all began. You know, then, you know, problems with ration. You know, everything's rationed out because there's not enough of everything. You know,
Right.
Nothing belongs to the people. Nothing. Absolutely nothing belongs to. It's all the government. People that have their own private businesses, private properties, it's gone. Nothing belongs to you. And when nothing belongs to you, there's no incentive to improve, to grow professionally, or any. You know, you don't want to put that extra effort into the business because it's not yours,
Sure.
right? I mean, it's hardworking people will, but it's just not the same. You know, when you own your own business, when you have your own home, you take a little bit more care and you put more effort into it.
Sure.
And it's not like that in Cuba. You know, nothing belongs to the people, and it's a struggle. I mean, buildings are crumbling. There's some places don't have running water. It's very sad what's going on over there, and has been.
I spent time in the Navy,
Okay.
and I was fortunate enough to go to Guantanamo.
Okay.
I have to say,
I haven't been to Guantanamo.
visually,
I wasn't there.
yeah. Visually,
Yes.
it was very pretty.
It's a beautiful.
I mean, it was.
I don't know when you were there, but
It was this was 2000. Oh, good lord, this was 2005 or 6, something like that. But boy, visually, it was the most lush. It was like Jurassic Park. You know,
yeah,
without the dinosaurs.
it is a tropical.
Yeah.
It's a tropical island.
It's
it
a
truly
tropical
is a tropical
island.
island. I love the tropical climate.
Yeah. What I found distressing though was the fact that as a sailor, you know, we couldn't go
They won't,
anywhere. You cannot. You know, it's.
because they don't want you. They don't want you to come across the Cuban citizens, so you can
Right.
see what it truly is like, and they don't want people talking to, you know,
Yeah.
others.
And which is why I asked that question specifically about Cuba, because it did seem, what's the word, paradoxical,
Okay.
that we could be so limited, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you get a screed when you get off the boat. You're so limited, but yet your senses are overwhelmed. There was iguanas the size of Rottweilers. It was incredible.
It's a pretty island.
Yeah,
It
and I always
is.
thought it was very sad to me, you know.
And that's how the tourist part of Cuba is. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's maintained that way for a reason.
Right.
But if you venture outside of that, then you would see what the true Cuba is
Right.
right now. And it's not what I remember. What I remember, you know, the house that I spent 8 years in, it was you know, it was beautiful. You know, the Caribbean style homes, you know, the colors, all of that. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it looks pretty in pictures.
It does, yes,
Yeah.
it does. But yeah, all that is you know, hurricanes and just wear and tear and not taking care of it. You know,
Right.
there's, you know, like I said, buildings are crumbling and it's not what it used to be. But it is. It's beautiful. It's lush. It is green. I love green.
Is that your favorite color?
Actually, blue is
Ah,
blue. The ocean.
interesting. I was gonna guess red. Blue is my favorite color.
Yeah.
I am a blue
The
guy.
ocean. I grew up. Well, I was born around the ocean, but yeah, blue is.
So, I understand the what you mentioned and what you speak of about the issues with your family and your reluctance not to go back. You do seem, on the outside looking in, however, as a person who does care about and does love Cuba.
I do. I would love. I would love to go back. I
Okay.
would love to go back. I would love to take my children to see their roots. You know, I would love that, but
Which is what I was
but
getting
Cuba,
at, certainly.
Cuba
Sure.
has to be a free country
Of
before I
course.
can go.
Of
But oh my
course.
gosh, I would love.
Which is what I was getting at, because you do seem
Yes.
like a patriotic
Yes.
person.
Yeah, I would someday. I'm hoping and praying that it will be a free country soon.
Right. What was Cuba like? What was Cuba like before the current government? If you're able to recall, or in conversations with your father.
Well, before Castro was Batista, which I briefly cover in the book, and there was corruption. You know, he was, you know, he was also a pretty bad dictator. He, you know, also incarcerated people and assassinated people, but you know, things were, you know, a little better. You know, people had their own businesses, their own properties, but at that time, you know, the corruption, I believe there was also starting to be a struggle with, you know, job loss, unemployment, and things of that sort.
This is the 40s.
So that was Batista. Fidel took over in '59, so Batista was in the 50s.
Okay.
Ish, mid to late 50s.
Okay.
I don't remember how long he was in power. And then prior to him, you know, it was, I believe, much better. I mean, Cuba used to be the Las Vegas of the Caribbean.
Right.
You know, it was a beautiful country. I mean,
Right.
celebrities would, you know, just hop on a plane and fly over there and for the weekend. You know, it was a gorgeous.
Let me try my history.
Yeah.
Before Batista was Jose Marti.
No, Jose Martin was way. I don't remember when, what year he was. But he
Founding
was,
of Cuba, probably,
yeah,
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But he,
I failed that one. Thanks,
no,
teacher.
it's fine. Well, I should know the year, and I don't, so that's fine. We both failed.
Oh
Okay.
man. So what is your father's story?
So, without giving too much away, so
Certainly, and if
Yes.
we want people to read the book.
Of
So
course, yes. So, you know, it covers. It starts in the beginning where it shows us how Fidel took over,
Okay.
right? And then once he had control, he took away all the rights and liberties of the Cuban citizens. And my father, along with many other Cubans, you know, stood up. They spoke up and they tried to get their freedom back, their liberties back, their properties back. And the communist government would have none of it. So that's when the consequences were severe. people were incarcerated, tortured, many were assassinated, and that's what the book covers. It's 57 to 69, when my dad and many others were fighting to get their country back, and all the struggles and the suffering that went on during that time.
If there were a word
Okay.
to describe Cuba, what would it be?
Now then, or oh, that is a good question. To describe Cuba. Wow, you stumped me with that one. Hopeful.
Okay.
These Cubans fought so hard, and they were so hopeful that their country would be free someday. And the Cubans there, you know, many have left. Many, like I said, I get desperate pleas that they want to leave, but so many are still there and are trying. They're trying to, you know, get their country back.
Right.
And you know, the Cubans here are hopeful that we will see a free Cuba, and that we can return, you know, to see our families and to see our land.
When it comes to also, which I like to read, I love to read myself. What are some books that you have read? You got any favorite books? Like what has inspired you in a literary sense?
Historical fictions. I read, you know, as a teacher for the middle grade. We do a lot of historical fiction,
Right.
Especially the Holocaust. I love reading that type of genre, and you know, obviously my dad's book.
Yeah.
I love. I don't know if you would know Patricia Polacco. She writes a lot of children's books, and she has such wonderful lessons and messages in those books. One, my favorite, which I actually start no, I didn't start this school year with it, but every school year I start by reading her book, Thank You, Mr. Faulkner.
Thank You, Mr. Faulkner. Patricia Polacco.
Yeah. And it's a book about a young girl who struggled with a reading disability, and her teachers helped her overcome it, and she grew up to be very successful. So I think the lesson's just wonderful. So I read that to my students every school year in the beginning, so they can see, listen, look at what she went through, and you know, you guys can too. You guys can overcome and persevere. One of my favorites is The Last Man on the Moon by Gene Cernan. Gene Cernan, it was one of the, I think there was 3 of them, one of the last astronauts to place his foot on the moon.
Okay.
To step on the moon. And Gene Cernan is actually, I believe he grew up in like Maywood. And Triton College, I don't know if you're familiar with Triton College, but they have the Gene Cernan astrology center, or astronomy center, I forget what it's called, but it's where they, you know, I think there's a big telescope there where you can go and learn about astronomy and stuff. So
Very cool.
yeah, so it's you know, that's a nonfiction book, but I love astronomy, and I love reading his book and learning about it's kind of a memoir.
Yeah. The Last Man on the Moon.
Yes, yeah, I enjoyed that book.
So, what's next?
What's next? So,
What's the next?
I am trying to convince my mother to let me write a sequel with her side of the story, or her experience. You know, especially in this day and age, I just think it would be good to have a book about a woman who is also fighting, for freedom and civil rights. And I'm trying. Maybe this will convince her to let me.
Is she reluctant?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. She's humble. First of all, she's like, I don't want to be made a big deal out of. But it's not that. I want to educate people. I want the message, and I want the lesson, and I want people to see that, it's not just men, women, from every walk of life can stand up and fight for freedom and rights. She's also, my dad, the only thing he was not reluctant at all, but the only thing he promised me is that I change the names of the characters, because people are still afraid.
Sure.
They're in fear for their lives and for their families, and I think that might be part of my mom's, concern. So, but I changed all the names at his request. So,
Make Dad happy.
I did.
And be safe, right?
Yes.
So, when's the last day of school?
Students, the 27th. My last day is the 28th. Next week.
Are you ready?
Summer school. I am ready. It's been a tough year. This remote. I am a remote teacher. Our school district offers face-to-face, hybrid, which is mornings at school and afternoons at home, and remote. And
Okay.
I was placed as one of the remote teachers for the dual language program. Actually, I'm teaching the dual language program, so it's been hard, just seeing their faces over the camera, not in person,
Nowhere near the same,
Oh my
right?
gosh, no, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. They're struggling. Some are doing okay, but it's just not the same when you're in person and you can give them that one-to-one attention and that special extra help that some of them need.
Right.
So yes, I'm ready for for that to be over, and hopefully for this following school year to be back to normal, or somewhat.
How do you know J.L. Callison?
So I just recently met him.
That's the
and,
question that I
yes,
snuck in there.
Yes, no, I'm so glad I met him. I'm so glad I met him.
He's a good guy.
He is a great guy. He's
Good man.
Yeah, so supportive. And so I teach in Yorkville, and I went to Miss T. Garcia is affiliated with the Yorkville Public Library, and so she put me in contact with them, and I went to go speak to their writers group.
Okay.
And I am part of a writers group, the Geneva Night Writers Workshop. And
Geneva Night Writers Workshop.
Geneva Night Writers Workshop, yes. They are a main reason why I was able to finish this. They were so supportive, insightful, helpful. I thank them a great deal for my book. So I went to the Yorkville Public Library's Writers Work Group or Workshop, just to present my book and to share my story of the whole publishing process and everything. And J.L. Callison is from that group. So he heard my presentation and he said he enjoyed it, and we've been chatting back and forth ever since. And yeah, he's been very supportive. Very glad I met him. Yes, I'm glad I went, and I'm glad I met him. Yes.
Yeah, me too. He's a cool guy. I think. See, he gets it, right? You're supposed to craziness. Right in the heart of downtown. It gets loud. It gets crazy.
It's okay. It's life.
He gets it. I do believe he understands that everybody has a story to tell.
Yes.
And he likes to facilitate and get that out there. And I do appreciate him for that. When I interviewed him, he said that, if I'm not mistaken, he said, all of us have a story to tell, or something like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I concur.
Yep.
Completely, yes.
So, school's about to end. It's going to be summertime.
Yes.
Life is opening up with people going places, vaccines, and all that other good stuff. You have any summer plans?
Well, I have my first virtual book event coming up.
Okay.
June 3rd. And it's actually with the Yorkville Public Library. If you go to their website, you can register there.
Okay.
So I'll be, talking a little bit more about my experience in Cuba and the writing process and all that fun jazz and the publishing process. So I'll be getting into it and showing some pictures,
Okay.
I want to start getting out there and promoting it more, because it was published March 3rd of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and I had
Holy cow! Well, it was
yes.
like, you only had it for like what, 8 days?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And I had right before that I had already made plans to go to Florida to visit my family and start doing some sort of promotional things and we were my mom is part of the Cuban committee of Chicago. Oh my gosh, she's gonna kill me because I probably butchered it. They have a summer festival every year.
Okay.
So I was gonna, participate in that too and have my book there and
Oh, Lord.
all that went away. So I'm hoping that this year, I'm hoping that I can do that at the festival if we have it. I don't even know if we're gonna have it yet. I want to start, I want to go to Florida because in Florida there's a lot of Cubans and they want to see the story and hear the story, but I really need to get this out to the American public and the world. I need the world to know what happens when a socialist government takes over / communist so that, history does not repeat itself. So I need to make sure that I want people to read it. To educate them, to enlighten them on what could happen if we let that happen anywhere else,
Right.
And so that hopefully, we can liberate the people in Cuba and in other countries that are struggling with socialism or communism,
Right.
But yes, I'm hoping. I haven't made any plans yet.
Is there any social media, or you said there's a registration link for the June 3rd event?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a website, LucyGirolamo.com.
Okay.
And in there is a link for the Yorkville Public Library to register for the event, June 3rd. There is also links to my social media platforms, which is Facebook, Instagram. I also have Twitter, but I'm not on it very much.
Twitter's difficult.
It is.
You only get so much space to write in.
Yeah.
100 characters, no.
Yeah.
Right? It's tough.
And Instagram, you can set it up so that you could probably do it for Twitter too. I'm not sure, but you can click on so it'll, whatever you post on Instagram goes onto Facebook, so it kind of saves me some time. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do that with Twitter, but yes, Twitter is a little difficult, and as a teacher this year especially, I don't have a lot of time, so
Right.
it's posting things on social media has been a challenge. I try to keep up with it, but I'm on there. You can see some of my pictures.
It's all about being there, right?
Yes.
Well, if you have our email address, so if we can
Yes.
help you.
Oh, thank
get
you.
anything
Thank
out
you.
there,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes,
feel
I will
free to
share.
send it
I
to
will
us.
share that with you. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
So, the show ends on a positive note. What is your message today for the people of Aurora? You're not an Aurora resident, but will people of Illinois?
You know what, Aurora? Actually, driving down here is so cute. The little planters, the little hanging baskets. Oh my gosh, I was
Thank you. I did it all myself.
Yes. It's adorable. I love vegetation. So
Yeah, I'm a flower
it was very
guy.
cute.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
They got the hanging ones on the lights.
Yes,
Yeah, it's a really
it's
good.
so
That was a good
cute.
touch.
Yeah. So for the people of Aurora, yes, and anybody, everybody, I want people to appreciate and understand how blessed we are to be here in America, I want them to, oh my gosh, especially nowadays, I want people to embrace our diversity. We have so many beautiful cultures and customs and foods and books and art. We need to just embrace that and help each other out and learn from each other. And, hopefully by doing this, we can help the world so that others can see that, we need to be free. We need to have civil rights. We can all live in harmony and have a beautiful life if we can just embrace everything and everybody.
Yeah, I agree. You know, that's one of the reasons why, like, I started doing this show. There's a few reasons, but like one of them was because like so many people have a voice.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people who are doing incredible. I mean, they're writing books. They're teachers. They got a restaurant that their grandma started 40 years ago in her bathroom, and now it was so like
That's
people have
awesome.
interesting
Yes.
stories. So they're all
The American Dream.
yeah, they're all highlights of diversity.
Yeah.
But I was upset because some of the most poignant stories were not getting told, and I tried to
We
do
need
that
more of
with
that.
this. Yeah.
And I know people need to be, aware of what's going on in the world, right? We need to be aware, but I think we need more good stories because there is a lot of good in the world. There really is. There's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good stories. There's a lot of wonderful things happening, and we need to share more of that so that people can see it
Right.
and replicate it.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I think we need more of those wonderful stories, which are everywhere, but we just don't see enough of it because, unfortunately the media has to cover all these other things so that people are, aware.
Sure.
But yeah, we need more good stories.
We do.
Yes.
We do.
So thank you for doing that.
No problem. Yeah, thanks for coming. Because after JL sent me an introduction about yourself, after doing even just a small little bit of research and stuff on your website,
Oh,
I was quite happy and honored to have your story.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no
Thank you.
problem. So thank you very much for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
So for all of you fellow readers out there,
Yes.
we encourage you. You must pick up To the Pastures.
Yes, and it's also in Spanish. I have it in Spanish.
And in Spanish.
A
Awesome.
los pastos. Yes.
A los Pastos. Please check out the book by wonderful author Lucy Girolamo. I got it right.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Messed up the first time, but got it right at the end.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate having you. You guys be blessed, be safe, and we'll see you back for another great episode. Peace out.
Thank you.